to remind me. So those who weren't here can catch up on this information. The beauty of this space is that there's going to be room for that collaboration and connection. And with that, we'd like to set some meeting agreements to stay on time, stay on topic, and align with the promise and law. We ask that everyone be as engaged as possible. Ideally, if possible, show that by renaming yourself and having your camera on as much as possible. But note that since we are being recorded, if you were to speak, you would end up on camera, so choose accordingly. Please be respectful by remaining on mute unless asked or invited to unmute yourself, which there will be time for that today. You can use the chat to ask your questions. Of course, lastly, be kind, both assuming good intent from others and also recognizing that your words have impact. I also wanted to let you know that as long as you fill out the attendance link, which I put in the chat earlier, you're going to get a follow-up email from me tomorrow with all the links of everything we're going to share here today. We're going to put stuff in the chat as we go, but there might be lots of them, so you don't have to panic and make sure you catch all of them. We'll get that all to you tomorrow in email. And also, I'm doing something new today. When you exit this meeting, you're automatically going to be presented a survey. A browser window is going to open, asking you a few questions and opinions about this session. Since these cohort meetings are a new thing we're trying, getting your insight into your experience is really, really valuable to me. And even if you come regularly, it's really helpful for me to keep getting your feedback so I understand which topics are helpful and important. So I see we got a couple of people sharing what their plans are. Folks are working on camp right now, and that's travel progression. You know, leaving home with or without grown-ups, that's a big deal. Staying in tents, eating camp food, that's you can't do that when you're, you know, as easily at all ages. So that's definitely great progression. And then Caitlin is planning some camping at the Oregon coast. That's exciting. And one day in Madagascar, like country. Oh, that's very exciting. So we're gonna go ahead. They have great bugs. Yes, Caitlin's Girl Scout is a big fan of entomology, so that's awesome. So if you end up having any questions, as I mentioned, please feel free to use the chat. With any luck, maybe we'll cover the question you have. Between the two of us, we might pop in if we feel like it's a good moment to interrupt the flow. Otherwise, we'll be sure to get to it at the end. And you also, if you feel like it's super important, you can use the raise your hand feature and we'll do our best to catch up with that. So I'm going to hand this over now to Shannon. Shannon, let me know when you're ready to advance slides. Because Shannon is our resident topic expert on travel.
Sure thing. So many of you are familiar with the Girl Scout leadership experience, and if you aren't, it's all about girls leading experiences and gaining progressive skills so that they can do things more independently and gain confidence. And so the same thing applies when we talk about travel. So these are trips that they can take where they're working away the overnight with the family, going a farther distance for a longer amount of time. And they're going to be able to gain confidence, as I mentioned, but also when you're in the planning stages of a bigger trip, you have to tell people what you want to do. And if the whole group wants to do something that you don't, you have to voice yourself. You have to voice that. So learning how to advocate, learning how to compromise and problem solve, teamwork, learning how to plan a budget, thinking about all of the costs that the trip will incur, how to stick to that budget so you don't go over. And, you know, if they need to earn money to meet these goals, if this trip to Madagascar is very expensive, taking the time needed to make sure you're able to raise the funds so that you can pay for the trip to happen. And then when they actually go on the trip, they're learning about different cultures and the different pace of life in different places and different priorities, different values. It's a very life-changing experience to experience another culture. So the purpose of this is that they're taking the steps they need to advance to the next level of progression and that they are gaining those skills along the way. Next slide, please. All right, so the main progression, as I mentioned, so they're learning these skills, and then we want to help them learn how to get farther away, getting comfortable with being farther away from home, and then more comfortable for a longer amount of time. And this sometimes applies to even the adults. As a parent myself, I have a really hard time letting my child go far away from me for a longer amount of time. So it's something that I have to work on as well, because we don't want our kids growing up not being able to have these independent skills. So, and no matter when they start, they're always going to need some progression. So it depends where their starting point is and where the end goal is, and learning the steps, working on those steps to get there. Next slide, please. All right, so here is what travel progression looks like in Girl Scouts. And so you'll notice that starting out, you could go to just a day trip, a field trip somewhere nearby outside of the meeting place. This is usually for daisies and brownies, so K through 3rd grade. And really it's to get them used to being able to get from point A to point B safely, experience something outside of the normal meeting place, and the girls are having a say in what they're doing on this this outing. The day trip is the whole day, so going out even farther than that first local trip, and spending time together. Perhaps they even have a budget for this day trip because maybe they're going to the zoo, maybe they're going to a museum. And then this would typically be for daisies through junior, so up to 5th grade usually. That's not to say older kids can't do day trips, but this is that starting point in the progression. And maybe for this day trip, maybe they're taking public transportation. So maybe they're considering taking a bus or a train or something, and they're budgeting that in. So they're advancing their skill slightly from just that local field trip, or maybe they're just determining the location to a day trip where they're spending the day somewhere. Overnights. So for this one, it can be, I think this can be a little complicated for Juliette's, but really experience outside of Girl Scouts counts. So are they able to stay at a friend's house overnight without getting called? Are they able to go for 2 nights for the weekend away with a friend's family? Are they able to go to outdoor school? I know when I was in 5th grade, we did outdoor school. It was like maybe 4 nights. Somewhere outside. So like these things all count. It doesn't have to be achieved in a troop experience, but it's taking those first 2 steps and advancing to the next step, which is going somewhere overnight away from your parent, like the main caregiver you're used to. And I mean, even grandma, depending on how far away grandma is, could count as a little step, but ideally you'd get away from it being a family member so that we can try out that distance and that confidence building. So once you get into the overnight realm, there can be short trips, extended trips, international trips, and individual travel. So short trips are just 1 to, it's like 2 to 3 nights somewhere in the region. So that's up to the rules on travel are changing this year. So this is going to be up to 6 hours drive from your location. So starting October 1, that's going to be the new definition for a short trip. And this is recommended for juniors and cadets. Brownies, if they have enough experience, could be considered ready for this. But generally speaking, it's going to be juniors and cadets. So this could be, if you live in Portland, maybe you're going up to Seattle for a short trip. An extended trip has 2. It could be within that 6-hour driving range, or it could be outside of that 6-hour driving range. So extended just means for a longer duration, or you're going much further from home. So this is for cadet seniors and ambassadors. And again, you're just going farther. So you're going outside of that. And when you get into that outside of the 6 hours, it becomes a national trip. And that just means maybe you're going to San Francisco, maybe you're going to Los Angeles, Disneyland. And then they can work their way up to an international trip. So this is also considered extended, and this is leaving the country. And this is for Girl Scout seniors and ambassadors. So for this international trip, it's quite a difference from that local field trip that we started out on. So you have to think of each one as a stepping stone to the next one, and have to consider that your Girl Scouts experiences outside of Girl Scouts as a Juliette would count towards building this progression. And when they do individual travel, that's usually for seniors, ambassadors, and I think cadets as well. We have Girl Scout destinations where they they go on this trip that's planned by another council or by our national organization, and they meet kids from all around the country or world, and they get a unique travel experience, which is really valuable. And this type of travel you can't do in a troop. So destinations is a great way to go for those Girl Scouts who are ready for it.
And
Okay.
the key thing too, if I may, about the destination travel is it includes both national and international opportunities. They have things that are actually technically physically close. There's San Francisco trips, there's Oregon trips, California trips.
There's actually there's a trip to the Pacific Northwest, which is near Seattle, where they're going to hunt for trolls this year. So like it's a close one that's for cadets and up. But you know, like they could do a destination that's close by one year, and then the next year they're off to Italy. So they can still gain those skills independently of troop travel. Yeah, thank you. All right. So progression and readiness. So this is something we're thinking about. Girl planned and the skills. Okay. So taking the steps to get there. We already talked about how day trips paying attention to the travel that you're doing without family. They won't be ready to go to the next stage though until they master the steps before it. So if they do one overnight at a friend's house and you get called in the middle of the night to go pick them up, they're not ready to move on to that next step until they can do that previous step successfully. So make sure that just because they have the one night experience or the overnight close to home doesn't mean they're ready for the 2-night experience. They need to be comfortable in that step before advancing. Let's see. So I think I mentioned outdoor school already. That's usually 4th or 5th grade if it's happening. Maybe they do, there's some day camp opportunities where there's like a 1-night overnight as well, I believe. So like looking into that sort of opportunity, service unit camporees are a great example. There's a aquarium sleepover, I think, in Newport. We used to have a zoo offering, but we no longer they're no longer offering it. So we haven't had that, but there may be other opportunities at council events or things where they could have a sleepover experience independent of a troop and still get that that girl experience. When you're going further, a good place to look to is looking at council properties. We have a lot of great places, and Whispering Winds now is got a lot of availability for folks to rent out and explore and do camp-like things there. So just considering those as you're accomplishing those baby steps. There's also patrol travel. So if you know of other Girl Scouts in the same age range that want to do something, you could consider forming a patrol and traveling together. And that patrol would function mostly like a troop as well. So you could also see if your service unit already has one. Sometimes they have a patrol already for trips. Sometimes they'll form one for a special trip, depending on what the kids in the troop are wanting to do. Okay. I think I covered all of that slide. So I'm going to advance to the next one. And Tiffany,
I think one of the other things we wanted to kind of bring out here too, the idea, the concept of the part of this that's girl plan and how that progresses with it too, that like how much, it's supposed to be girl led through all of Girl Scouts. And so there's some concepts of like how you can include them in the planning process as they get older or they're moving into these higher levels.
Yes, this chart has some great examples of how they're advancing through those skills and building off of them. Yeah, I just feel like I touched it on the
yeah.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself there.
So a few of the things that you'll want to consider, and one of the many places that really trips up Juliette families is having a grasp on training requirements, because as a Juliette mentor, you don't have innate training requirements out the gate. Whereas like troop leaders, they have a whole list of training requirements they have before they can even start having meetings. Juliettes don't have that. So while it's not required out the gate just on natural premise, it will be required depending on how you plan to engage. There are a lot of precautions we take for girl safety. So once you start moving into spaces where other people exist, then that can change, and it can change based on what you want to do. So one of the first spaces is whenever you leave the meeting place, which on average technically means your house, there's something called safety activity checkpoints. And that you want to be observing, and we ask all our members to observe. It's a very comprehensive document that basically details pretty much any activity a person could want to do and how to engage that safely, but also, you know, what skills you will want to have in hand in preparation for that. So if you wanted to go do archery, it's going to detail what kind of things both the youth and the adults involved need to know before they start that. So that can help guide your decision making. You know, you shouldn't just show up at, you know, an archery and think you're ready to go. But the safety activity checkpoints will help you understand that. It'll help give you some guidance by age level. And so really you'll want to peruse that before you get started on most anything outside of the home. And we'll also let
Can you hear me, Caitlin? Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, I think
Yeah,
Tiffany.
I can't hear Tiffany. I was trying to figure out how to get the chat box open
She
again.
looks frozen to me, but unfortunately, she's the meeting owner. So if for any reason the meeting closes, if she drops, we'll just all have to try to get back in. I should have had her made me a co-host. Maybe I can request it. Oh, she's gone. We might get disconnected. Let's fingers crossed.
Or Sarah's the host now.
Oh, yes. Hello, Sarah. Well, since we're still recording, I think I can kind of help out a bit with this slide. So basically the point is if you are going to be participating in activities that we require trainings for, because you will be in proximity or looking after serving as ratio, then you'll have to complete those required trainings. So if you're attending a service unit event, but you're not supervising anyone else, just your own kid, that's different than if you're asked to be ratio for 2 or 3 other children at the event and another adult is teaming up with you to provide that ratio. So if you're serving as ratio, you have to have the background check, you have to have the membership. And there's mandatory reporter training as well as, sorry, that's Tiffany. She's trying to get back in. Her internet went out. So those things are all like required if you're going to be around them. And then if you're doing those more specialized things, so small craft safety, low ropes, archery, you're going to be camping a certain distance from a hospital, you need wilderness first aid. So that's kind of what this slide was to let you know is like, if you're doing specialized activities that they require specialized training regardless. And then if you're serving as supervision, then you need those volunteer trainings. Hi, Tiffany, welcome back.
I haven't had that level of technical difficulty in a hot minute. Sorry about that.
I thought maybe the call would drop, but we were fine.
All right.
I believe I wrapped this slide up for you. If you want.
Okay, excellent. Let me just open one little thing here and then I will be ready to proceed. Okay. Okay, so one of the things that is confusing often for people with Juliette and travel is how money works. And money is always a complicated thing with Girl Scout stuff. So in order to travel in the name of Girl Scouts, doing Girl Scout things and using Girl Scout money, it has to be planned in a group. And this is actually part of our charter as an organization. It's related to IRS rules, very convoluted, but in the end, we need to be able to say, if you're using Girl Scout money, it is doing Girl Scout things. And to do Girl Scout things, you have to be learning really key skills. And that's hard for us to prove when it's just you and your mom planning. It's hard for us to say that there's really been some girl-led activity involved in that. There's, this decision-making, all of that stuff can get a little bit. So it needs to be planned in a group. So the main ways that happens in Girl Scouts, there's a troop format, most ready, bake, easy version. But then we also have things called patrols and destinations. Shannon touched on the destinations already. A brief mention of patrols. A patrol is basically a special interest troop that comes together for like one specific intention. And so we have a lot of travel patrols in our organization. It's a group that comes together. It's got 2 leaders. They get 4 girls or more. They decide, the youth are going to decide where they're going, or sometimes that is predetermined. But we're going to go to Madagascar. So the youth work together, they plan the trip to Madagascar. As always, Caitlin, you are our guinea pig for all examples. That's what you get for being on camera. So they plan to go to Madagascar. They go to Madagascar, and that patrol wraps up technically. That body might stay together and invite new girls to go to new places, but that's the basic premise. So that is one of the other really great ways that Juliettes can go on these adventures, because it's in a group. They're going to participate. They're going to be goal setting, budgeting, decision making, all of that stuff. And then there's the destinations that Shannon mentioned, and it's the same premise. It's just facilitated and organized by a different council in our organization. So a different council decides they're going to Madagascar, and they invite girls across the country to join it. So those are the main ways that a Juliette can engage in travel, because the group is ready-made, they can participate in it, and they can use their Girl Scout money to go there. And the big cinch here, like, to try to make it as clear as possible, this is if you want to use Girl Scout money to do it. And you and the Girl Scout want to go to Disneyland, and you're paying out of pocket, and you happen to like earn some badges while you're there because you did some groovy, product designer things or other stuff, that's great. You can do that all. But if you would like to use Girl Scout money, it has to happen in these group settings. Otherwise, that we don't have a way to convert the funds you've earned. And so the Girl Scout money is earned during one of our product programs. So there are 2 ways that Girl Scouts can money earn in the name of Girl Scouting, or Juliettes can money earn in the name of Girl Scouting, and that is in the cookie product program and the fall product program. So when they participate in those programs, the Girl Scouts going to earn funds for their sales activity. They earn a base amount for their sales, and then there's additional credits that they can earn instead of receiving tangible rewards like stuffed animals and journals and t-shirts and things like that. They can instead choose to use credits that can be used in this way. Sticky, confusing point for lots of people. So those credits that are earned during product programs, they're called program credits. I put a link in the chat so you can go investigate more. There's different types. How they can be used vary by the type of card. Some of the cards expire at a certain amount of time, basically the season after they are earned during September. So it's a place you will need to guide your Girl Scout in planning. So for example, Caitlin's Girl Scout who's planning to go to Madagascar one day, that's super groovy, but Cora cannot use the sales credits that they earn in this coming fall product program for that, because they'll expire before that happens. So she can't be earning money in that way. But the pathway card that a Juliette earns during their program participation doesn't expire. That actually stays active for Girl Scout as long as they have a membership by January 1st of each year. So that rolls over. So Cora could, in theory, participate in product programs and be selling cookies and doing all these things and stocking those funds up to one day pay for that Madagascar trip. One of the cards, the program credits, is only allowed to be used for adventures, which includes travel and things like camp. So it's specifically for that reason. I'm going to take a look at Sarah's question here. I thought I read that pathway card funds belong to Juliette, don't expire the same way as for troops. So does any Juliette funding expire? So, so that you're correct, the pathway card doesn't expire. But there are things like, there's something called cookie credit and adventure pass and nut credits. And so pathway credits are what a Juliette receives in lieu of troop funds. So what happens is there's 2 ways that girls receive recognition for their sales. There's the main bucket that is unit for units. Usually, like if you sell 5 boxes of cookies, that equals a specific amount. And the troop setting they get $1 per package of cookies sold, and that is to benefit the whole group. Pathway cards is the alternative to that for Juliette. So they're going to receive a certain amount for their sales. And then, so that's its own bucket. And then they also receive individual recognitions. And this is a way, the main purpose is for girls who are in a troop. You know, I sold 500 boxes, you sold 20 boxes. We are going to get the same benefit from those troop funds. Like I don't get to get more money towards my zoo troop than you because it's troop money. But I can earn individual recognitions a little bit more for my sales of 500. Like I'll be able to choose some extra special things that are just about my sales that don't benefit the group. Those are called individual recognitions, and that's the things like stuffies and patches and things of that nature. So a Juliette earns those exactly the same as everybody in a troop does. So they kind of get a little bit of double that technically are both based on their own individual sales. And on those individual recognitions, that's where those additional cards are, the cookie credit, the adventure pass, and the net credits. And those all expire. To be honest with you, I don't know why there's a big difference, but the biggest difference is pathway cards are supposed to mimic that troop fund experience as closely as possible, and troop funds don't expire. A troop is allowed to continue to accumulate funds for their big planning. So we try to make sure that the Juliette had that same ability to accumulate over time for big plans. So I definitely invite you to look at the program credits page. Like hopefully it illuminates that as well in some different ways. So Shannon is going to lead us into a couple of ideas of what are some progression opportunities within council.
Yeah, so if you know of a progression opportunity within council that you can think of, please type it in the chat. But like some examples might be, we have a teen retreat that happens in October, and it's usually 2 nights, and that's for cadets and up, and it's a great way to get some progression skills. There's a wizard camp in Southern Oregon. That one is a council sponsored one. We have the day camps and the overnight camps. Those are all good examples of council sponsored progression opportunities. But yeah, can you think of any other ones that might be good?
We recognize that there are different varying experience levels with those here, so it's totally fair if you're like, I have no idea.
And yeah, I mean, Tiffany mentioned, and I think I mentioned as well, there's patrols. If you don't know of one, you can reach out to your service unit to see if they have one. If you're feeling extra motivated and you're very experienced, you could even start one. So that's a great way to connect kids to have these travel experiences. I mean, service units have overnight camps. Yes. So the camporees, campouts, those are great ways to get some progression opportunities.
There's something called Tamboo, if you've never heard
Tamboo.
of it. Tamboo, which is hosted by volunteers, but that's basically, I liken it to Camping Olympics. You arrive with a group and you will have practiced camping skills in advance. They give you a list of what there is, but like rolling up your sleeping bags of houses and pitching tents and outdoor cooking and things of that nature. So it's an opportunity to compete against other groups. Juliette's are capable of participating. They just have to find a group in advance. And so that's something your service unit or even I can potentially try and help you do finding a group that's going. You can make a gag with Juliette's or find a trip that's going.
There's like some self-initiated opportunities as well. We have schedule your own events. Sometimes there are group minimums, but these are like meeting with a program partner who we've worked with has decided that they will offer programming on your time. So you could connect with them. We have a list. You could connect with them and set up an excursion or an outing. But they do occasionally have a group requirement. And that might be something you form a little patrol to go to if there's a lot of interest, or you see if other folks from the service unit would be interested in going. We talked a bit about destinations. Let's see, there's day-long skills day in your North Plains.
Yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
progression. Yeah, like
Yeah.
one day thing is still a progression for sure.
And then they would be ready for the overnight thing once they do the one night thing. So, you know, if if they need to demonstrate girl-led travel skills, just make sure that they're speaking to their experience, even if it's outside of Girl Scouts. So give examples of the roles that they have them give examples of the roles they played, how they gained skills, have them think about it. So for example, let's say there's a travel patrol in your service unit and they're going to the Oregon coast. The application is going to ask about your travel experience. The same thing goes for the destinations. They would not be able to just skip ahead and do a destination. They would have to work their way up to it, because that is something that they have to apply for and be accepted on. So when they're looking at that application for this patrol to the Oregon coast, they should point out any 1 to 3 night overnight experience and like, what did they learn about traveling with people outside of the family? What did they notice if the dynamic was different? I bet you it was. Did they get to help make the plans? Did they get to any say on the budget? Did they have to save money so that they could have a lot of fun? Did they get to go to more than one place? Did they have to think about transportation between those 2 places? So all of these things are skill building experiences that they can reference for that sort of application. It'd also be great to talk about, like what they hope to gain. So thinking about the experiences they have and where they want to get to. It might be helpful to have them keep a journal or another sort of record of their experiences, so that over time you can kind of reflect with them when the opportunity arises. And it might be difficult, like to remember what they achieved a few years ago. So kind of documenting it in some way, a short reflection is a great way to kind of keep track of that progression, so that they can use it when they want to go on these bigger adventures.
Caitlin asked a great question. I'm not familiar with one. I wonder if you know, Shana, that would be. It's a great idea.
We don't have a template, but it's something I think that we could consider creating. But yeah, that's it.
Ask those leading questions and about kind of like the golden trefoil checklist to be able to lay out what's the end goal, and then you know what to look for. That's a great point. A lot of those things are often covered. Versions of that I think are provided in troop training for these spaces, and so we might be able to extrapolate that from those spaces because troop leaders, that's kind of built into their training about this. So thank you for that suggestion. I put in the chat some links, some of the things we talked about. So we have an informational video on how one could form a patrol or club, or what they are and what makes them unique. So that's great information to have. There's a link to more information about those schedule your own events. So what that is there's a list of organizations we already know about that we know offer things in their own works, but it has Girl Scout quality stuff. And so we give you that contact information so you can schedule with them on your own, on your time frame. As Jen was saying, sometimes they're a minimum. So it's also something you can approach your service unit to be like, hey, I want to go to this archery field because my Girl Scouts are working towards this. Can you help me put out an announcement, see if anybody else wants to go so we can meet the 10 girls? Totally thing. In that same vein, I listed 2 Facebook groups on here. That is another excellent source, especially for Juliette's to find those people. We have our own Juliette Facebook group, so that could be a place where you can ask that same type of question. There's also something called Oregon Southwest Washington Girl Scout Leaders Facebook group. That is that is not council led, whereas the Juliette one is council led. It's me looking around the backside. The other one is not me, but is a great place to find stuff. It's council wide, and that is where everyone around the council posts we're having a Valentine's Day skate party. My Girl Scout is earning their bronze award and has this information night. My troop has put together career fair, like a ton of really great information, and that's like the top, especially if your service unit doesn't have a lot of local events that provide the progressions, camporees and stuff, because not every service unit has that capacity. This is a great way to get on what other people are already doing in a group that already exists, that everything's already planned and is eligible for program credit use most of the time. So you can use that Girl Scout money to pay for it.
Yes. Okay, so you've heard us mention that there's that the experiences outside of Girl Scouts all count. So can we think of any opportunities outside of Girl Scouts for for example, I've used overnight school or what is it? Yeah, I think that's outdoor school. Outdoor school.
Which
I
is
use that
niche to
example.
Oregon. When I moved here from Nevada, everyone kept talking about it because I moved here with the fourth grader and I was like, what are we talking about?
Yeah,
But
I mean, I grew up in California and we had outdoor school. I don't know. I know they have it here, but that's a great one for kids if they've already done the 1 or 1 to 2 night overnights. I mean, family trips can kind of count. Maybe the kid takes a bit of a lead in the planning for the family trip. But still we should work our way up to being able to go independently of our families. Maybe.
well, and you can also, other youth organizations, Caitlin, your faith groups, clubs, anything like that, where they're doing little trips.
I remember in 8th grade, we went to the Shakespeare Festival and we stayed overnight in the dorms. You know, like there's school opportunities probably as well. Other youth
band summer camps, your kid goes to, space camp or, those other things that are private thing, but that counts as an opportunity. And as Shannon was saying, a family trip can count. Those things can especially count, like if you have control over the situation or what control you do have, you can have formatted a little bit to equal the thing you need. If you know your kiddo needs to work on budgeting or, trying new foods, you could be like, hey, we're in charge of dinner on day 3 for the whole family. Help me plan that out. It doesn't have to be completely out of the road. Sarah's talking about that they're taking a road trip to Canada as a family in June and going to work on camp and camper national plan. Perfect. Yeah, like you can work it in. Excellent. Let's see.
All right. So I think we're already sort of doing this, but how you can incorporate girl-led into things. So as Sarah mentioned, bringing in the cabin camper badge and having, is it June, take the reins on that and do the planning. Let them do the research. Let them help shop. Maybe you need things for the camping trip. Maybe you need to think about bug spray and sunscreen, and maybe you need a new sleeping bag. Like evaluate what you have, what you need. Have them take the lead on that, and they can step those skills up with each trip. They can lead conversations in public, with service workers, like at the doctor's office, ordering pizza, checking out a store. Kids hate talking on the phone. Have them make some phone calls and gain those skills of like, how do you find out if something's open, if the Google isn't saying, like the shop hours, having them practice these skills, and then think about opportunities where you don't need to be involved as the adult. So, those leadership opportunities at school, in the community, if they're on the student council or a planning committee, they're gaining planning skills. Maybe they could help the service unit plan within the service unit. Maybe they could volunteer to help plan one of those camporees. And you can also leverage existing groups for decision-making and people skills like siblings, cousins, other adult family friends, community groups. Maybe they belong to a church or a religious group. So these are places that they can get that sort of like feedback and help from. And there's lots of ways. And we went over that chart at the beginning with the various progression and how it can increase as well. So just consider giving them more and more to be in charge of.
I will tell you, as somebody who has a 20 and a 16-year-old, like I didn't find out till the 18-year-old became 18, and I was like, go check in at the doctor. And they were not equipped for that. And they're just now getting over that fear of like, it's your name and birthday. I think you can give it to them. It's okay. I promise. So all those small places where they can gain that confidence. Caitlin is talking about doing the financial literacy badges are a great way to teach about budgeting for travel trips and activities. Yeah, that's built in. So now you have a twofer. You've earned a financial literacy badge. While you're getting ready for that cabin camper badge, let's just stack it up, and And then they get to fill their sash and, you know, let alone what are the things you can explore there. So it's something we didn't talk about here, but that's something to keep in mind. You know, there's Girl Scouts everywhere. You can check out the council of your destination or places you're going along the way and see if they have any events that are open to outside members. You know, and things like the national parks, a lot of those big organizations also have programs, junior ranger programs and stuff like that that translate. So a few things. Oh, Shannon, this
Yeah,
is
I was gonna talk about the thoughts if you don't mind. Some things happening coming up. So think about what we've talked about tonight. And then also consider that if you do want to do those farther away trips, that you do need to take the extended travel training because that will help you know exactly what steps you need to go through to make sure that you're meeting all of the requirements in terms of our policies, procedures, things to consider. But what is next? We have the destinations travel. So if your Girl Scouts are ready, the applications just went up. The new trips are on the website. And if they apply by November 15th, they can be eligible for financial aid for a 2025 trip. We have something called the DPASS grant, and we give financial aid to all the applicants. The amount will vary what they receive, but everybody gets something. If they apply now for a 2026 trip, then they could apply for financial aid next year. So we usually award for that same calendar year. So that's just something to consider. And then just, you know, keeping an eye on the website, we are going to have a destinations workshop as well, which will teach Girl Scouts how to fill out that application and tips and tricks, because it is an online form. So we usually advise them to apply for at least 3, and we usually advise them to fill 1 out and then paste it in 3 times, because then they don't have to retype everything. So tips and tricks on how to apply for destinations, the ins and outs of the financial aid. That will be scheduled. It's still to be determined the exact date, but it will be coming up in the next month or 2, and we'll send the word out once it's booked. And then you can always talk to your service unit to learn more about patrols. We have a section on our website about patrols. I'm also happy to help answer questions about patrols. But thinking about whether or not that's a good fit for travel goals, and whether if they don't have one, you could always start one. And then, as Tiffany mentioned, that Facebook leaders group, that might be a great way to recruit some folks to join your patrol if you do start one. And just engaging with your service unit and getting your Girl Scout involved in helping with service unit events is a great way to get that progression in there.
If I'm not mistaken, Sarah and Caitlin's Girl Scouts are not quite at the age bracket for that yet, but it could be a good idea to take a look at that with them now, or just independently, so you kind of get the scope of what we're talking about. They're not the same things every time, but you can get an idea of like what the requirements are, the lead time, and some of the places they could go, and it can get your Girl Scout inspired. So especially if you're having trouble like keeping them on track and caring about anything, it's like, do you want to do this someday? Okay, let's stack the deck to get you there.
Yeah.
I put a link to information on how to get going with the fall product program, as we talked about. If you would like Girl Scout money to pay for these things, you can pay for it privately, absolutely. But if you wanted Girl Scout funds, the fall product program is going right now. So that's something you could get on board with if you were interested.
Oh, and I will say as well, if you are several years out from extended travel, from those longer trips, I would wait to take that extended travel training until you're closer to that time. There's no need to take it right away. The information will serve you best closer to the time your Girl Scouts are ready for that. And in the Juliette's case, it will be for a patrol that you would want to take it. So no rush on that.
So we're going to move into the collaborative discussion part of the night, since we're a smaller group, and because I know yours aren't that far into travel yet, but we can just put out into the space. Do you have any burning questions, or, you know, is there something that is especially confusing or daunting about this that you think the group could appreciate? If you have something super niche, we can definitely have a conversation offline, but feel free to put in the chat or come on up. So Sarah is like, here, there will be a program guide in the same form as the past. Any idea what that will look like and how we can find out about events for your plan?
So that program guide is shifting to the plan your own option. Right now we have a plan your own option on our website with some folks on it already that but our plan is to make it a more robust list. So there's lots of opportunities and lots of cool and exciting things to do. We are still going to be offering some big council events, and we will be spreading the word about those throughout various channels instead of a program guide. So I'm not sure yet. I don't have information yet on what that form will look like, but I know we send things out through the Program Opportunities email, the Troop Connect. There's also the Service Unit Connect where we send it out, and then the Girl Experience Mentors will send that out to the rest of the folks in the service unit. So there's various ways that we will put these things out there. But yeah, it's true. We are moving away from that traditional guide. And the hope is that, because what we were finding was a lot of events were getting canceled. We weren't meeting minimum number requirements, or we had folks writing in saying this date doesn't work for my group and we really want to do it. So working with partners, we've realized that maybe it's a better fit to have folks be able to schedule on their own time when they can do it. And then the partner's happy because we have more events, and we're happy because our Girl Scouts are doing more things. So that's kind of the idea behind it. But yeah, we're going to be building a more robust plan your own. So Tiffany put that in the chat if you want to look at what's up there already. But we should be expanding on it over this next year with lots and lots of things to do.
Sorry, the ones we host will still be on the events page of our website where you currently can find that result, and that has a calendar view. And so, we'll be doing things like the Juliette Connect and our other regular ways we give you the way we would tell you that the program guide exists. We will tell you about what we have. So, but yeah, that's shifting a little bit.
And there will still be big events happening, just not on the same scale as before.
Since we're in our last few minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and move us into something I'm calling the classified section. So this is an opportunity. It doesn't have to be specific to the travel experience, but this is a place where if you have a need for your Girl Scout experience that requires other humans or a desire, you can put that in the chat here. So if you wish you had somebody in your area to go hiking with, or check out bugs with, or, can you help walk me through this badge, or just some general mentorship, or even if you want to offer up a service like, hey, I'm working on the Camp Camper badge. Do you want to go to Canada with us? No, just kidding, Sarah. You don't have to offer that. But, if there was something along those lines, my intention is to only, ideally you put your contact information in here so that you all can connect directly with each other, because I'm hoping to find ways for the Juliette community to connect outside of when I'm present. And I won't share it with anyone outside of who is here tonight and without your permission. So in the event someone's like, wait, I wish I had someone to go to Canada with, I'll be like, I might know someone. And I'll ask Sarah, and she'll say, what? And I'll be like, okay. But so we're going to try and have this opportunity in ongoing cohort spaces. I'm going to keep moving, but if you have something you want to put in the chat, keep an eye out for each other. If it applies to you and you're excited, write down that contact information and reach out to them. So we've got quite a few resources to recap. Not all of them were actually specifically mentioned in today's thing, but I want you to have them available. So if you didn't do so already, I'm going to be posting an attendance survey. So that helps me make sure I can follow up with any questions. Can see if you want to invite people to Canada with you, but also send you that follow-up email with all these links. I had to stop picking on Caitlin for like a minute. So there is a link to those Facebook groups we talked about. So again, there's the Juliette specific one, and then the all over Girl Scout leaders one. So again, just remember that leaders one is not managed by staff. We ask everybody to behave in the Girl Scout way, but we don't know what's happening in there. But so that's a great way to supplement what's in your own service unit. There is, I'm pretty sure, I know at least Caitlin and Sarah have already seen or heard of our introduction to Juliette Girl Scouts, but we do have a recording of a basic 101, what is Juliette? So if at some point, if you were new and had no context, that might be something you could check out. There's a link to the schedule for these meetings, so you can see what we're going to be doing in October. Actually, Caitlin is going to be my topic expert for that session, where we're going to be talking about badges, patches, and journeys. But so you can see what's happening in the other months and decide what's a good use of your time. We record all of them like we are now. So within 48 hours, I'll be posting a recording from this onto a playlist that's linked here. So you can check out ones that you've missed or rewatch it. We've got that link on how to participate in the fall product program if you want to do that, and reiterating how to find out more about those program credits, which is that Girl Scout money that can be used for Girl Scouting things. So we have 3 minutes. If you have a burning question, it doesn't have to be related to this topic. It could just be loosey caboosey, or if something new is revealed. You feel free to just unmute yourself and ask it. It's a small enough group. Or if it's a big topic, I can follow up. I save the chats so that I can revisit all the wonderful things everybody said. But feel free to put that in there. And then if you don't have a question, feel free to hop out whenever you're ready. Just remember, when you exit, it's probably going to pop up that survey window for you. So if you don't mind filling out those questions, it's anonymous. I won't know it's you. Well, I mean, I might know it's you. I might know Caitlin. I've heard from her enough to know her cadence, but I genuinely do appreciate real quality feedback. I want to make the best use of both your and my Monday night. So let me know what it is you liked and didn't like and what you want to know. So our next session is going to be October 14th. You can register through the Eventbrite or just use the same link you got to get in here. It's the same one over and over. You don't have to register. Sarah, a random one. Can June formally bridge after this year, even as a Juliette? Absolutely. So bridging is literally just like flipping a calendar page, like technically. The process of bridging from one grade level to another just means getting older. That's all you have to do. If you want to hold a formal bridging ceremony, you certainly can. Some service units host them, and you can join in on. Juliets are always welcome to join in on that, or you can create something on your own. But yeah, and being a Juliet in her troop, irrelevant. It's kind of a nice thing. You go to the next level, you could do 0 things all of your Girl Scout year, and you'll still bridge to the next level. But there are bridging awards, which are like very colorful little rainbow stripes that build on each other over time. They're really cute, that you can earn formally, which basically involves reflection. And it basically involves, usually the Girl Scout recognizes their experience and shares it with someone younger than them who are coming up. And then they also learn from Girl Scouts who are older than who are moving on. And then they formally earn these really pretty bridging badges. Caitlin, the bridging awards have 2 steps: looking forward, looking back. I swear I thought of that even before I saw your note. If you've been around a couple of months ago, I brought up that we were going to have a Juliette bridging ceremony in October, and unfortunately we have canceled that. So we're not having a formal Juliette one, but you can definitely engage with your service unit. Lead one, propose one if your area isn't having one. But yeah, you can. So this space, the Juliette Facebook base, is a great place to find those Girl Scouts. And like our classifieds could be, you could be like, hey, I need to find a cadet Girl Scout that my kid can talk to. Do you have one? Yeah, we can help you find that. Excellent. A lot of information. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you, iPhone. I'm so glad you were here. And if you are welcome to reach out to our follow-up email with any more nuance that we can be helpful. Other than that, I'm going to say good evening and thank you all for your night. Hold on 1 second.